Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, so in the last session, we stopped till conversion operator. Uh, we'll give a brief revision of yesterday, and then we'll come back to the new one. Uh, we touch based on something called as inline data declaration. So inline data declaration, there are two variations. One is data, and the other one is field symbol. So in for data, basically what happens is that uh, it kind of combines two steps. One is the data declaration that we do separately, and again the second thing is about data assignment, right? So for example, when we want to do a loop statement for internal table, first we have to declare a work area of similar type of the internal table somewhere, and then we also uh, assign that data uh, of the internal table one by one into the work area at the loop statement. So if we put the data statement in front of work area, the system creates a work area on the fly, and that will help avoiding the developer to create to put the steps for creating those data declaration elsewhere. Similarly, we also saw for read table, and there are other examples for method, and like for example, there is find statement, then there is call transformation statement, etc. Okay. So one of the example was where we have the data declaration, and then we have the data assignment. All the red statements were combined along with the black statements to give one unified statement where you have the inline data declaration concept used. Then we also saw something in the select query, but then the select query will take it up in the coming sessions. For field symbol also, it is exactly similar to what we did for data statement, just that the keyword changes. It is now field symbol, compared to what is there for data statement. So again, this was the example that we saw. Field symbols, you have a declaration and then an assignment. uh, you can combine everything together using the keyword field symbol for using of inline data declaration. In the constructor expressions, we started something called as value statement. uh, so value statement is something that is used when you want to kind of populate a variable, or you want to transfer some data to a target variable. For example, internal table. So in internal table, you have this append structures, etc. And then you have on the left hand side you have two three steps. One is that you need to declare an internal table, then your structure should have all the values, and then after that you have append structure. What happens is that you can do it all these things together using the value statement and the inline data declaration together. You can create an internal table on the fly, then use the value statement, use the structure that is already present in that program or the S11 environment, and then you can write the couple of values that is present, right? After that, there was something called as conv operator. So in conv, what happens is that sometimes, like I told you, there will be use cases that you wanted a different data type to be converted for your output for certain use cases. So you can use conv in a situation like that, where you can have conv, then the target data type, and the result beside it, right? So these were the things that we did, uh, right? Any questions on this? Okay, so I have just started the system for showing the code. let's go for the next operator. So the next operator that is called as COND operator. So everyone is familiar with what is if else statement, right? In your day-to-day operations. So on the left hand side, when you can see, you have if operator. So you can ignore this pipe operator right now, but in an if operator, what happens is there is if statement, then there's else if statement, and there's an else statement, and then the closing statement with end if, right? So in the new syntax, you there is something called as COND operator, okay, or the conditional operator. That is basically what it does is that it's kind of a replacement for if else if. Okay, in this again, this is an expression, right? So like I told in the earlier class, the expression, there is a left hand side and a right hand side. So in the left hand side, there is a target variable called time, in which we are going to store the data of the right hand side. Okay, so and the right hand side, there is the keyword cond, then there is a keyword for the data type string, and then there's an open bracket and a close bracket. Inside that, the first statement is there when, and then you have the condition. And here, see, if in the if statement there is no then statement, right? After the conditional, sorry, the condition, directly the statement is given. Okay, but here after the condition, for example, if the time is less than this thing, then there is something called as then statement. So whatever is written after then will be transferred to the variable time. Similarly, there's another when statement, and then there is else statement. So there is no end if statement anymore. Directly there is a close parenthesis. Okay. So
Sunit, can you repeat then statement? Didn't
yeah,
get.
yeah. So I'll anyway show that in the program. So what happens is that, if you see if statement is there right here, if there is a condition
Okay.
here, and then after the condition, automatically time is equal to something something, right? There is no then statement
Okay.
after this. But in
Mm-hmm.
the syntax for condition statement, after the when statement, right, there is this condition like if site time is less than 12 or something, then
Mm-hmm.
there should be a statement called then. Okay.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it.
There is no full stop, but there is something called as then. So after
Okay.
statement, there
So,
is statement like, for example, site time low is equal to something. So this entire thing, right, which is written after then, will be going, transferred to the variable time. Like for example, in if and statement, entire statement which is there, it is gone into time, right? So that is
okay.
how it is. So I'll just show that in the code.
So this is for the replacement of case and case also, or only for
No,
if else?
no, only for if else. For case and case, there's another one called as switch
Okay.
statement. Okay, that is the
Okay.
next one. So
Okay.
here, let's just give you a kind of an idea. So data statement is there, right? So data statement is nothing but the inline data declaration. So I'm creating a variable called current underscore time. Okay, and I'm giving a condition that so everyone, I think, is aware of the system variable called time low, which shows the system time of the current system that you're working in. Okay, so what I'm telling the system is that the time low, again, if I'm just using the above conversion operator also. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it is in string format. So what I'm trying to say is, if so when the site time low is less than 12, okay, that means, it is less than this 12 p.m., then I want morning to be written in current time. Okay. Similarly, when you convert site time low, if it is greater than 12, okay, then I want evening to be written in current time. Okay. And when site time low is equal to 12, I want high noon to be written in current time. And then else, there is this else, which is a default option. I want error to be written in current time. So obviously it will not be there because we have covered all the cases. But sometimes in scenarios, we also would want to have a default value. Okay. So when we do that, this, this particular current time will be, having the value according to the condition. So right now, since it is 8:30 right now, so what will happen is when we kind of write this, so it should display morning. Okay, so this is what it is. It displays morning. Let me just put a underline. So this displays morning here, right? Any questions on this conditional statement? Should I repeat again? So it's a very straightforward thing, since we are all experienced in ABAP, this will not be a big issue. That's what I feel. It's just that we need to understand it's again an expression, right? So left hand side is the source or the target where we want to give the final out data from this expression. That is what we have given. So this is current time. We have used the conditional operator. We have also told the system that the data type will be of string. Okay. And then within the syntax, the condition, the first condition is this. Okay. So when site time low is less than 12, okay, then I want to have morning written in current time. Similarly, when site time low is greater than 12, I want it evening, etc., etc. Okay. So this is what happens for replacement for if and if. Okay. I'm not saying that if and if is completely gone. You can still use it in the new systems also. It's just that SAP is moving towards this kind of statement, so you will see this conditional statement more than this. So both of them might be used in parallel. Okay, so the next one is, someone asked about a case statement. So in the case statement, you can typically compare a variable with a value, right? For example, if let's say psi index is equal to 1, then I want to do some operations. Similarly, if psi index equal to 2, I want to do certain things. So here, case statement, it is not a straightforward replacement. It's something that because of certain scenarios, I want to pass on the value to a variable because of certain conditions. For example, now let's go to the right hand side. Again, it's an expression. So the left hand side has a target variable. You have a switch. In the earliest example, it was COND. So in the current example, this is called as switch. Okay. So switch. Then after that, we have the data variable, a data type, and then we have the uh, comparison variable, right? So in this one, you have k psi index here. So you write psi index in just at the starting of the expression, and then you have the same thing when then. So again, here in the left hand side, you do not have something called as then. Okay. But in the new syntax, it's getting a bit more expression oriented. So it's kind of like a bit more like English. Okay. So when one, then we are telling the system that transfer this value 1 into the variable number, then 2, 3, and also otherwise you throw an exception. Similarly, what we have done here in uh, data statement. Okay. So when we go to the um, code, okay, so I'll just give you a brief like what we are doing. You have the data statement here. I've created a variable on the fly called as language. Then I've used switch. Now, if you would remember that either I can write string as it is or I can write hash, because by default the system will try to understand what is the data type, else it will try to take it as string only. Okay, and by default. So once I did this, then I'm using the variable for comparison. So the variable or the data variable that I want to compare is the language of the system. So if it is E, then I want English to be written inside the variable language. Similarly, German, or if it is some other language that I am logged into, then I would want to write others in language. Okay. So when I execute this, I would get an output English. Okay. So if you see this, and I'm getting an output English here in my program. So any questions about this both conditional and switch operator?
Sumit, this is Divyaja.
Yeah,
Sumit, in CONT, that conditional operator,
yeah,
your UC is converting the time, right? But in example, it is not using CONV, it is converting, right?
yeah. So what happens is this is something that I'm combining the earlier CONV also here, right? For some reason, I thought that maybe site time blow might not be in this format, right? 12,000 something.
Okay.
So for me, I just wanted to convert that into that format. You can also use it like this. Okay, it doesn't mean that you need to use convert. For example, you can use it like this also. Okay,
Okay.
it's just that for my developer sense, I thought that straight away this particular the site time low might not be in this format. I think it is, but I was just being sure, right? So let's see if it will still work. It should work, but this is something like an assurance that I'm giving that okay, for some reason if it is not in this format, at least just convert that. So if we,
Okay.
I think we are still getting morning. That means the site time low is actually in the same format only. Okay.
Okay.
This is again a use case like what we were thinking last session, like where we can use CONV. So and again a CONV can be used in this scenario as well.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the next two expressions that we saw. So more or less, these are the four main expressions that is used in your day-to-day programs. Now let's move on to a very important thing called as table expressions. Okay, so table expression is nothing but internal table expressions. Okay, internal table expressions uh, is similar to like what you do for um, you know read table, right? So in read table you have uh, a requirement to extract data from an internal table. So this is the same thing, but there is a difference in now how we kind of extract the data. Okay, so let's see how it happens. On the left hand side is the current way that we read table, right? We have a read table, internal table, and then we specify the index number. Okay, so you can ignore second and fourth because that is not used most commonly. So the first is read table index, and the third one is read table flights with key. Column one is equal to something, column two is equal to something into work area. So I hope this is how you read the table right now, right? Either through index or with a key, right? Like what all this should be there in your comparison. So when we go to the right side, there are different ways in which now we can extract the data in a bit simpler form. Okay, so for example, assume that your work area was already declared. Okay, so here on the right hand side, what we can do is we can simply write work area is equal to the itab, which the internal table which we are going to use, and you can use a square bracket and you can just simply write the index number. Okay, so automatically the line which matches the index number will be copied into the work area. Okay, so that is how SAP is trying to make it a bit more simpler rather than writing the entire line like this. Now when we want to compare through columns, you don't have to write again this much statement. Directly, instead of index, you can write the comparison statement, right? Work area is equal to itab, open brackets, column 1 is equal to something, column 2 is equal to something, something, close the bracket. So whatever condition is matched with this column, that we are comparing, the first occurrence of that particular row will be copied into work area. Okay, so these are the two main things, way that we kind of read a table that we'll see in the code today. Okay, so in the table expressions, let's try to first populate the table. Okay, so we are right now populating the table using the value statement. Okay, that we learned. So we have a types which we have created for field 1, 2, 3. Then we have created a table type, and then we have created a table data, right? So this is the internal table that I created on the fly. This is again the value expression that I used, which we learned in the last session. In this, what we did is tt underscore int exp. That is nothing but the table type that we have created, and we have populated the values of the internal table. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 rows that we have inserted into itab underscore index. Okay, so this is what we have created. Now what happens is that let's try to understand in the old syntax. This is what we have to do, right? Read table itab index 2 into work area. This is how you will do it right now when you use the current syntax that is being there in the ECC system. Okay, now the other way is about the new syntax. Okay, so let's ignore this part right now. So the way that we do is that we can have a work area declared on the fly. Okay, you don't have to again declare a work area for this, because you don't know if you want to create a work area later on. So whenever you feel like, you can directly use the work area or declare the work area in a situation like this, where work area is equal to itab index and row 5. Okay, so any questions about this, how to declare a work area on the fly and also assign the value using the new expression? Because I'll continue with one more variation of this. Okay, so now if you can see this, uh, there are only 3 rows in the internal table that we created. Okay, however, I am trying to access the 5th row. Okay, so what happens is that it will still in your day-to-day operations, the internal table is always dynamic. Right now you know for sure that there are 3 rows only, but there can be situations that you don't know how many rows are there, and for some reason, if you wanted the 5th row, it may or may not have that row in that internal table. Okay, So what will happen is if I try to execute this, okay, it will give you a short dump. The reason is it will say that this row is not contained in the table. You will get an exception called a CXSY type line not found. Okay, so that's the reason as a uh, best practice. As a best practice, we need to put this in a try catch statement. So is everyone aware what is a try catch statement? It's basically an exception handling statement that if at all some exception happens in your original statement, there is an alternate fallback statement that happens. So everyone is aware, right? What is a try catch statement? So that's how we kind of have the new syntax written along with the try catch statement, so that if for any reason you think that that particular index might not be available, so that the alternate statement can be written. So for example, if I execute this now, you can say see that data not found statement has come, right? Okay, so data not found statement is come. Otherwise, now let's say if I want to get the third index or the third row, I'll just put it as 3 and I'll write WA underscore index field 1, WA underscore index field 2, WA underscore index field 3. Okay. So when I say third, so we are expecting 1000, 2000, 3000 in the output. Okay. So let's see. Yeah. So we got the output 1000, 2000, 3000. Okay. So is this clear? Anyone has a doubt? Okay. So the next variation that what we saw was that instead of index, we would want to have this column comparison, which is more common when we try to do a reach statement, right? So what we do is, let's go to this statement. Let's concentrate on line number 372. Okay. No, no, not 372. Let's try to create another one. Data ls itab index 1 is equal to itab field 1 is equal to 1000 full stop. Okay. So we are trying to do this one. Okay. So what I'm trying to now tell the system is that I want that line where I can, one second. Sorry, obviously it is not itab, right? It is the actual table name. The table name is itab underscore index. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell the system is that please give a line in of the table where one of the field, that is field one, is equal to 1000. So in all this lines, I think the third line is where it will satisfy, where field one is equal to 1000. Okay. So now when we write this particular, you know, statement, let me just put 100. So it will give you the second row. Okay, field 1 is equal to 100, 2 is equal to 200, 300. So let's try to execute this. So you saw we got 100, 200, 300. Okay. So in another situation, there can be a scenario that even your comparison for that column can also not be available. Okay. That means that, let's say you're trying to compare 1. Okay. Field 1 is equal to 1. So if you see here, there is no row in which field 1 is equal to 1. So the another situation is that you can have a try-catch statement, or there is another scenario where you can tell the system that, okay, if you don't find it, at least default the value for those row columns. Okay, 3, 1, 5 into the work area. Okay, so let me just put it as 3. Now let's come to here. Okay, now let's concentrate on this variation 377. So in this variation, what happens is that I'm trying to tell that, okay, if uh, there is no value for a scenario, you can what you can do is I will put the default value 3, 2, 1, or 5 in the corresponding fields of the work area. Since because anyways there is no value that is going to come from the internal table. So how do I do that? I can use the value statement like this. We can tell the system what is the structure that we are going to use. Then we are telling the system that, you know, the either you can give this particular variable data, or you can use the default value. Okay, that means we are just extending this statement. Okay, this is the initial statement, we are just extending it to the right. We are telling that default value, again we are giving the structure, and we are telling that field 1 is equal to 3, field 2 is equal to 1, field 3 is equal to 5. Okay.
Sumit,
Yeah.
wait. Okay, I'm having two doubts.
Yeah.
First one is like, uh, while printing the can you show the code?
Yeah.
See, for currently the itab index, there is no code, right?
Correct.
So if we are trying to print the fifth row and we are setting a default value, will it returns error, or will it create a will it create a row with this value?
No, no, this is not creating any row. It is only,
Hmm.
for example, see, this is our table, right? This is a table which
Hmm.
we have 3 rows. Field 1, 10, field 1, 100, field 1, 1000. So these are the
Hmm.
3 rows. Okay. Now, what we are trying to do is we are trying to do a read statement, right? We are not trying to
Hmm.
do a insert statement. We are just doing a read
Yeah.
statement. So
Yeah.
in the statement, like in the current syntax, what we do an index 2, right? So if
Yeah.
there is no index to statement, it gives a size about C4. Okay, in the
Huh.
current scenario. But
Huh.
when we try to do a read statement using the new
Hmm.
syntax,
Hmm.
like I showed, it will give you a short dump. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
To avoid that short dump, we can have an alternate statement written that there
Huh.
is no data found. You can do anything here. You can also
Okay.
the normal
Okay.
size abarc not equal to zero kind of situation here, and you can do the normal things also uh,
Mm.
here. So this is the one scenario, but
Mm.
there is be another scenario that okay, uh, what we can do is, let's say if you don't have this condition met on line number 377, make
Mm.
sure that at least in the default values of this work area, you can
Mm.
set this value, which is
We can set that value, right?
yeah. We are not
For the
creating any entries in the internal table. We are
Mm.
just creating the values in the work area. That's all.
Okay. So the above that is 373. In the case of 373,
Yeah,
suppose if the field one, the here it is field one is equal to 3, right? So currently we don't have such a row.
correct.
So it will not return.
This will give you a short dump, correct?
Yeah.
Because it will tell you line item not found for that. Okay.
Okay. Suppose I am trying to give 100 and we are in the table we are having two column, two rows which match this field. Field one is equal to 100.
Yeah.
So which one will get us then? First
So
one
so
or
so in your normal statement also for read, right? It will all you also will also encounter the same scenario that there are three be multiple rows where your condition will be met. So right now, in my experience, it will give you the first occurrence of it. Okay. For example, let's have one more row with, let's say, the same you know particular field one. Okay. Let's try to just see that. So in my experience, always it gives the first occurrence. This one should be displayed. That's let's see. So field 1 is equal to 1000, correct? Field 1 is equal to 1000. Okay, so you saw this field 1 is equal to 1000. So always it is giving you the value 1000, 2000, 3000. So even if you had the second row, so maybe let's have one more row with another. So that's again a compiler thing, but as a thumb rule, it should give you the first occurrence.
occurrence? Okay.
Okay, it is still giving you 1000, 2000, 3000. Okay, 1000, 3000. The earlier 1000, 5000, 6000 is nothing but the index 5. So since we have fifth index also now, that's the reason it is giving you. Okay.
Is it possible to give like itab underscore index field one is equal to 1000 and field two is equal to 2000? Is it possible?
Yeah. You can have it like this. You can have field 2 is equal to 2.
Like a where condition, right?
Yeah, like how you have done it in read statement, right? You have multiple columns. So
Yeah.
you can do like this. You can give a space. You can have all the columns also. Look, field 3 is equal to 3000. Okay. So you can do in this way also. And then it will come, it will check with all the fields wherever it is giving this combination, it will give you. For example, I think this is again the column 3. Okay.
Yeah. 2000 it can give.
Yeah. So you can maybe give
2000.
this thing for 5000 and then 6000. So it should give you 5000, 6000, etc. Right? So here 1000,
Yeah. Access.
okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So anyone has any more doubts? I think those are
Yes, Sumit. Hi.
okay. So those are good questions. I think that it also highlights the way that we kind of do a variation in our read statement. Okay. So let us maybe concentrate this again because this is something might be a bit new. In
Sumit, can I
yeah,
ask one doubt?
yeah,
In number 379, we saw the default value. So can we ignore, see there are three fields, field 1, field 2, field 3. Can we only use field 1 instead of using all the fields?
Yeah, we can do that. For example, let's try to remove this now. Okay. Now
Okay.
we have just given field one, and let's try to activate it and execute. So what happens is the others will get an initial value. That's what my understanding is.
Okay.
Okay, so it will give the initial three, and then the others are not given anything. Okay.
Okay.
So this is something not even initial value. It will not have any value. Okay. You can still do that. For example, this is having what? Field 1, field 2, field 3. We're just telling field 3 right now, right? So uh, when we, let's say, when we come here, yeah, so I'll just create a new variable because this is also the same. Sorry, index 1, right? Yeah, index only, sorry. Then you have index field 2, index field 3. So this is because I think earlier also we have used the same index. I'll try to first remove that.
Actually, the fifth index is there now. Now we created that entry. It's not going to default value.
Yeah, 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 that's why. So I'll just put it as maybe 8. Okay, so let's try what happens. Yeah, so the initial value comes, right? Like I told. So 3 is there, 0 is there, 0 is there for this particular variable, right? So we have
Yes.
told field 1 is equal to 3, the others we removed. So by default, it will take the initial value of that particular data element. Okay.
Okay.
Sumit, one more doubt.
Yeah.
It may be a foolish question. Let me ask.
No, no
Uh,
problem.
so what is the relevance of this code like three, like the same code, right? You have mentioned now setting default value. Instead of that, we can simply write the value, right?
Yeah, so what happens is that right now you know that there is no value coming up, okay,
Mhm.
from the table, but there can be millions of records, okay, and you might not know that there can be a record or there cannot be a record, okay, but for
Mhm.
your use case, for some reason, it's that okay. Let's say if you don't have any records, at least you need to have some value in that uh, work area, okay, for your further calculations. For example, let's say this work area might be used for division by uh, denominator, okay. So
Mhm.
what happens is that if there is a problem that there is no value,
Mhm.
further that same work area might be used in the denominator, it will give you a short dump, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That there's this one use case. For some
Mhm.
other use case, it will be that okay, if there is no value, at least let us have the baseline figure for that. Okay. For example, let's say GST, right? So
Mhm.
GST, the minimum GST can be let's say 3%, 5% or something. So if
Mhm.
you're not getting any value, our scenario would be in such a way that at least tax the minimum GST. So put
Mhm.
3% if at all we are not getting anything, or 5% anything. So it is
Mhm.
something that it is again based on the scenario. It doesn't mean that we always have to do this. You can always do a try catch. Okay. If you don't want to give any value associated. Okay.
Mhm.
Or you can give a default value as it is on the fly. It is just a option that I'm trying to tell. It's not that it is always that you need to give a value to this. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Now, any other questions regarding this? So again, what happens is that in a situation, uh, it is sometimes you don't want the entire work area also, right? You can also have something that from this table I might only require maybe field two only, okay, from this particular table. So usually what we do is that when we do a read statement, uh, you have into work area, and then you will take work area underscore, sorry, work area field 1, and then take it further for your, sorry, field 2 for your further calculations. Okay, so in this directly you can also take only the column. How do you do that? You can use the uh, this is a terminology called as chain operator. So today can we extend till 9:15 since we had started a bit late? Is that okay with everyone?
Yes, Sumit.
Okay.
Yes, Amit.
All right. So in this particular scenario, what will happen is that for a particular use case, we only require the column. We do not require the entire work area. Okay. So there is a terminology called as chain inside this. So if you see this, we are declaring a data on the fly, and we are telling the system that I want the second row, but I only want the column 2 out of that. Okay, so what will happen again if I write LV chain? It will give you an output of the second row for the second column. So it will give you this particular output, right? It will give you 200. So let's see. Yeah, so it gave an output 200. Okay, so again, if I give, let's say, 9, okay, it gave a short dump. The reason again is same, that the line item was not found. Okay, so this was the earlier one, then we had this one. Similarly, we can have the field 1 is equal to 1000, field 3 is equal to 3000. Okay, and again this can be also in a try catch statement, or it can be also in a default clause. So I think we'll get a value 2000, right? So what it did is it tried to match, and it got a match from this particular line. Okay, where field 1 is equal to 1000 and field 3 is equal to 3000. So did we understand these two concepts? One is on the index and one is on the uh, column comparison. And a variation is that if at all we don't want the entire work area, we can simply, have a hyphen after the square bracket, and then just write the column name that we want. Okay, so if it's a deep structure, you can further give a column, right, like this, and then further give the particular column which might be there. So you can do a chaining like this. Since right now we don't have a deep structure, our structure will end at the first level. So here we are giving as field 2. Okay, so is this okay, this concept? Any other questions? Okay, so the next one. So this was what we were telling about chaining, where we can have multiple, chains depending upon the deepness of your structure. Okay. Now the another very small concept that is, we can do is something called as move corresponding. Okay. So move corresponding in the earlier syntax, or the current syntax that you have, what happens is that you used to do a,
Hello.
Yeah.
Sumit, I have a doubt regarding the try catch part actually.
Okay.
Like we were discussing, we have a when we have a huge volume of data, there are
Huh.
like possibilities of different kinds of exceptions coming up. So, is there any dynamic way to capture this exception? Like whatever exception it's popping up, we can capture that. And
So for this one, when you do this kind of a data retrieval from this, uh, in my experience, you will not get another exception apart from this. Otherwise, there is something called as CX underscore root, okay, which is there. So CX root is something the higher or the father of all the exceptions, okay. So if we do this, you will get all the exceptions captured in this particular root statement, okay. So I don't remember exactly if this is the root you know exactly, but if I let's so you see this data not found is coming, okay. So this is something, if you see that there are multiple exceptions that come, you can take the higher level of that particular exception. So all these are categories. For example, the one that we saw, CX line item not found, that is a subcategory. So if you go one step above, you'll get the more generic category, and then when you go at the top, there is something called as CX root, okay. So usually it is advisable as a best practice to make sure that you have the specific exception, okay. For example, in this, we know that it is something called as item not found. So better let us use the item not found category. Okay.
okay,
So let me again just put it back. So how do we kind of understand what is the exception? You can go, if you don't know that particular exception, you can go to the shutdown that has happened, come back, and then just replace it here. Okay. So yeah, so what we are telling now is that there's another concept, very simple. Uh, so earlier or in the current syntax, we used to do structure by structure, line by line. We used to do a move corresponding, right? Move corresponding structure one to structure two. So in the current new syntax, you can directly transfer the data of an internal table to another internal table by using the move corresponding. Okay, you don't have to write uh, and this is something, it is not just limited to 7.4. In some scenarios I have seen that it is also before 7.4, but we consider this as a new syntax because a majority of our code, when we see, we have always been using it to do move corresponding line by line. Okay, so in this one we can do move corresponding the entire table to another table. Okay, so this is another variation which we can use and which can also save a lot of time for us. So is this clear? Okay. So the next statement, I will give you some more small expressions that has been created for our convenience. Okay. So again, these are things that we are using, and it depends upon the developer, etc. If they want to use it or not use it, because the old or the current way still exist. Okay. It doesn't mean that you cannot use reach statement, you cannot use other statement, but you can still try to use the new ones. At the same time, if it is your scenario that no, I think the old one suits better, you can go for that. Okay, one scenario is in this way. Okay, so for example, there is a statement called as read table itab index with key field equal to 100 transporting no fields. Okay, so uh, we kind of do this also sometimes, right? Just to understand the index number of this comparison, right? We do this read table item index transporting no fields. So for this, what we can do is that uh, you know there is this thing called as if line exists. Okay, so there is a method that has been created or an expression that has been created by SAP. So what it does it that if at all there is an existence of that particular line of field 1 is equal to 100, then your statement is true and then you can write something here. Okay. So only if this is this condition is met, you can go inside it. It is similar to this, right? For example, here you're telling that you don't want to transport any fields, but if there is a line in my table, then I want to do some kind of calculations based on the size of RC value that it is getting returned. Okay. So for that, the alternate way is there's another method or an expression that SAP has given called as line exist. Okay. Similarly, there is another variable or expression called as number of lines. Oh, sorry, lines. So in the current syntax, what we do is we have describe table statement, which will basically count the number of lines of your internal table. Then what it does is it then puts the number into this particular variable called numbers. Okay. So this is how the syntax is: describe table itab index. Itab index is your table name. Okay. Then you will specify that this is what you have to count, and the count is given in the variable number. So you can avoid these two steps directly. You can create another variable on the fly, like data number of lines, and you can use another expression called as lines. Okay. So when you use lines and within the bracket, if you have itab underscore index, it will count the number of lines in this table and it will return the value in the variable number of lines. Okay. So these are very small expressions that SAP has created in alternate to what do you use generally. Okay. Third one is something that is used very rarely. It's the line index. Okay. For example, you want to understand that what is the index for this particular comparison where field 2 is equal to 1000. Tell me one of the rows where it is existing. So what will happen is it will return the line number or the row number where one of the field 2 is equal to 1000. For example, if we go to our table, field 2 is equal to 1000. Okay. So it will return index is equal to 3 in this particular row number variable. Okay. So when I write this, it will give you value 3. Okay. So these are the simple, line expressions that SAP has come up with in the new syntax, and I've given a alternate to this. For example, read table is equal to 100 with no transporting no fields. So what is an alternate is that you can have something called as line exist. Similarly, if you want to have number of lines, you can directly use the lines expression. And then if you want to have the index returned, you can have the index number. Okay. So in this particular one, you will not get the index number returned. You will only get a true or a false statement. Okay. There is something that is satisfying this condition. That is true. That's it. You will not get the index number. You will get the index number only in this particular scenario. Okay. So is this okay? This concept? I'll take 5 more minutes. Uh, no, we'll try just cover this particular scenarios also, character processing. But are there any questions in the current concept that we learned? Any further questions? Okay, so we'll just briefly touch base about character or string processing. Okay, in character or string processing, this is the old syntax. That means the current syntax that you are using. There are different strings that we have declared and we have passed the value like test1 test size sub rc this results in size sub rc sub rc1. So we are doing a concatenate statement also. uh, you know So you can ignore this one, and then you do this separated by whatever it is, right? So this is how you use the current syntax. You have three string variables, and then you do a concatenate using the concatenate statement, correct? So let's first try to uh, output the old syntax one. So this is the old syntax, okay? String one test, then string size sub rc is 0. This results in size sub rc separated by hash 0, the length of the string, etc. Okay, so this is how you use the old or the current syntax if you want to do some assignment of string variables into your system. Now, when we use the new syntax, let's try to understand one by one. Okay, this is the new syntax. In the new syntax, you see, we are still using test. We're using the single quotes. However, we are using the inline data declaration. So that is one variation. Now the second, and which is most important, is there is something called as a pipe operator. Okay, pipe operator is something that you will see above your enter key. Okay, somewhere you can see a very vertical slash which is there. It is basically a replacement for single quotes. Okay, so directly you can use, let's say I'll just try to give another example on the fly. LV string is equal to, I'm opening the pipe operator, new syntax, and I'm closing the pipe operator. Okay, so it is exactly similar to your single quotes when it comes to data assignment. Okay, like for example, you want to assign a data of string data into another variable. So here, if you give a gap, it will also take it as a gap only. Okay, so we have to be careful that if there are gaps, then it will also take those gaps in the output. Similar to, if, let's say, for example, if you have gap like this, right, it will take all those gap also in your output. So this pipe operator is a simple replacement for, or an alternate. Okay, it is not a replacement. You can still use single quotes. So this is a uh, kind of an alternate for single quotes. The the advantage of pipe operator is that, you know, on line number 534. Okay, so in this, what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to output something pipe operator open, and then I'm putting this much as a text. Then there's a variable called as subrc1 is equal to new, sorry, subrc1 underscore new. In this, I want to get the value of subrc1 equal to 2. I 1 underscore new. I don't want the text. Okay, like this hard coded text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open curly bracket. I'm going to write the variable name, that is subrc1 underscore new, and then closing the curly bracket, and then finally I'm closing the pipe operator. So what it will do is that this one is hard coded. Okay, so this will be written as it is. Instead of this, it will write the value which is there in this particular variable. Okay, so this results in size sub c something. So let's just see what is the output. Okay, so this is the new syntax. This is the output that we are seeing, concerned about. String 3, this results in size sub c, and instead of the variable name, it is giving the variable value. So if you go back, this results in size sub c is written as it is, and then sub c1 is equal to new. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll stop for now. Again, I'll take back with the same string variable expressions, and then we'll maybe if required we'll have a extended session in the next session just to cover up the revision of whatever we have learned, and also to cover up the next set of new syntaxes that we require. Okay. So I'm just giving 2 more minutes just to clear out any questions or queries which we have for the current session. Or is the speed okay? Do you think that should I reduce the speed? Is the speed okay?
Yes, Sumit.
Yes, yes,
Okay. So we'll stop for now, and I know today I'll be sending out this new syntax program, because now you will be in a position to also check it. I'll send out the slides of today's session as well as the first session that we had about what is ABAP on HANA, etc. And then, like Surya mentioned, we'll share the recordings, one which is edited, etc. And once the second batch is also done in the coming weeks, and then we can share the recording with everyone. And by that time, obviously, it's better that you can just try it out using the program that I'll be sharing. It's a straightforward program. You can use it in any system which is having 7.4 ABAP onwards. Okay. And right now people, you can also check it with the slides also. In the slides it's a bit more organized, where I've written based on the order in which it should be used. For example, you should first understand data declaration before you jump to let's say value operators or conversion operator, etc. And then you need to understand constructor operators before you go to reach statements. Okay. So in the want of time right now, I'll just stop, and then we'll come